Welcome to Hannah's Heart.
So Hannah, she's just one of the women who did struggle with infertility in the Bible.
No matter who we are, we can be inspired by the fact that Hannah took her pain to God, and God heard her and was with her.
So when she was praying at the temple, she had been weeping and not eating, and her lips were moving, but her eyes were closed, and the priest was like, "Hey, why are you drunk at the temple?"
It can become an obsession when you want a child so deeply.
And desiring that baby and to be a mama. Every holiday, every Mother's Day.
This is not a show that's going to promise you a certain outcome, but this is a show that says, however God answers your cry, we know that He's enough.
Hey, I'm Anne.
And I'm Kendra.
And we just are excited about this weekend. It's Valentine's Day coming up.
Thank you for listening to Hannah's Heart.
Yes.
We're glad you're with us, and we're praying for you all as couples. We know that infertility and miscarriage and all of that journey can be so difficult for couples. So we just wanted to let you know we're praying for you.
Yep.
And we hope that you take this upcoming little holiday to enjoy each other and fellowship with each other, and maybe just take a little break from all of that for a little
go
time.
on a date, a fun date.
Date nights are so important.
That's right. Even if they're at home, we'd like to order in a lot of the times. So
yeah, and if you do have a specific prayer request for your family and what you're going through, we'd love for you to email us, by the way, and you can do that at hannahsheart@afa.net.
That's right.
And we love hearing your prayer requests.
That's right. Well, today, Kendra, I'm super excited to introduce one of my best friends for a long, long time, Faith. A lot of people might know her here as Faith Riley, but you're Faith Dawson now, yeah?
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, beautiful and lovely.
That's right. And you have some connections to AFA because of your daddy, John Riley.
Yeah, my daddy is John Riley.
That's right.
He's on locally in the mornings and also in the afternoons.
That's right. That's right.
And you grew up around AFA, bopping around as a little.
Right, exactly. This is like,
you're well known here.
This is your second home.
People know me.
We love you.
People know you. That's right. And I got to know you. Let's see. I think we said we were like 6 or 7 when we first met.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And been best friends ever since.
Best friends. Actually, I always think this is a funny story, so I'm just going to tell it.
Okay.
But the reason, the way that we met was I went to VBS at her church, and her mom, Anne's mom, was my VBS leader, and she fell in love with me, of course.
She did in her, 4 days?
I know. And she asked my mom, who she didn't know.
No.
My mom she didn't know your mom.
Nope.
She was like, "Can I take Faith home with me? Because I think she would be really good friends with my daughter, Anne."
Yep.
And my mom was like, "Yep."
Take her.
So thank you, Mom, for letting me go home with strangers.
That is exactly how it happened.
Those VBS friendships that just last.
That's right, and it did. Well, and your mom didn't have 9 kids at the time. I was there for the last few.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. She had enough.
She had
6,
enough.
6 at that time at least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Anyway, sweet Miss Lenny. But today I wanted you to come on because you didn't personally struggle with infertility or miscarriage.
Nope.
But you were there with me way before infertility ever entered my life, but all through infertility and miscarriages and dealing with all of that. And so we just thought it would be neat to have on someone who could just share with others who don't struggle with this personally, but who have family members and friends that
we have listeners that listen to this that say they have children that are going through it, and they're like, I just don't even know how to be around them and how to help them in their hurt.
Right.
And so a lot of people listening want to be equipped by, how did you do that? How did you know what to say?
She did it great.
Know. Well, you must have done it gracefully because Anne invited you on the show.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what she said earlier on the phone this morning. She was like, "Are you sure you want me on there? Like, I don't understand." And I was like, "Faith, I don't think I would have asked you if I was like, she was terrible the whole time."
I made you cry.
That was awful. I rubbed it in how many children I had all the time.
Right. So, but anyway, before we get into all of that, we just want to know a little bit about you and your family.
So, we've already discussed it, but my dad is John Riley, and he's worked here at AFA for 30 years.
Long time.
He's on the radio side. And I met my husband here at AFA. I worked here about maybe like 8 years ago. I can't really remember. But my husband and we met here at AFA, and we ended up getting married about 3 years later. We have since both left and found other things that we're doing.
You are a phenomenal photographer.
Thank you very much.
She filmed my wedding.
Yeah, she took somehow she was a bridesmaid and took pictures at my wedding.
I was.
Wow.
That was never happening
super
again.
Talented, P.S.
I would only do that for you.
Yeah, sorry, that's not available. You can't pay her to do that.
Sorry, I'm not a bridesmaid and a photographer at the same time normally. So, but yeah, so I'm a photographer in Tupelo, Mississippi, and my husband, he is currently teaching high school at Shannon High School in Mississippi, and we have 3 children.
3 beautiful children.
Beautiful children. Love my babies. Elijah, he's our oldest, and he will be 8.
Gosh, that's crazy.
Wow.
In a couple weeks, actually.
Gracious.
And then our daughter Olivia, she will be 5 in April.
Wow.
And then our daughter Rachel, she turned 3 back in December.
The
my
baby who's
goodness.
not
Yes.
such a baby.
No,
I think you were pretty pregnant with Rachel at my wedding.
I think I was.
So added.
I was like pregnant with everybody at everybody's wedding, and the pictures in general. If you talk to anybody locally who got pictures done by me in the last like couple years, literally every time they saw me, they were like, "Oh, you're pregnant again?"
Which one is this?
Right.
Well, and it was pretty beautiful earlier when Faith came into the studio, seeing her kids come up to Anne and just the relationship, like they're just,
Oh, Anne is
rubbing on your
yes.
belly, and you can just tell you're like a sister, you're like an aunt.
She
to
is.
them.
She is. Anne is
Auntie Anne.
She's Auntie Anne. She is my sister who did not come from my mother, my biological mom, but I mean, we can go, and we have done it. It's not very good, but we can go months and not say anything to each other,
And then
and then just like
all of a sudden,
never.
Well,
Yep.
since you guys have such a tight-knit relationship, I'm going to be the one to dig and ask some hard questions.
Please
here.
do.
Okay, so
Lots.
you have beautiful children, Faith.
Thank you.
And let's just talk about what was it like having children and having something that was not a struggle for your family, and having a best friend. Did you feel guilty every pregnancy announcement? Did you feel like you couldn't tell her?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
So, with my first, Anne wasn't even married with my first, so
Makes it a little easier.
it was just kind of like, oh, I'm pregnant, and she was
Yes.
excited for me. And actually, when she was living, you were living in
Jackson,
Jackson,
Mississippi, yeah.
at the time, and so when Eli was born, a couple weeks after he was born, she took like a day, and she drove, and she spent all day with us, just like snuggling him, and
That's
you know,
the
we
sweetest.
just yes, it was sweet. I remember it. And
I would have been there the day he was born.
you would have.
But my apartment was
Oh,
broken into
Right, I forgot.
the day after Valentine's Day,
Yep.
actually.
Oh.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And he was born that next week. And so I was moving at the time, or else I would have been there. Because I was there
You would
the
have been.
other
I
2
know you would have.
births.
You would have, and you have been there. You're always there. So,
Yeah. So what happened after that? That wasn't that hard because I was not married yet.
that's
And
right.
so it was just fun celebrating my best friend, who's like a sister, having a baby. So it felt like I was having a nephew, really.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. That's when you became Auntie Anne.
That's when I became auntie.
So when I found out I was pregnant with Olivia, which was about 3 years later, 2.5-ish, and were you guys?
I think that was, what year was she born?
She was born in 2017.
Okay, that was the year
So-
I was diagnosed. So,
Okay.
like, that was when
The very
we
beginning.
were off
Right.
birth control for a while, but, like, I don't think I had been diagnosed yet.
Yeah.
So it was still like, this is kind of weird. It's taking so long, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever, you know.
Yeah. So at that point, it was still, you were like, oh, you guys had already expressed you wanted kids, and I was over here having kids.
Yes.
So it wasn't like, I wasn't scared to tell you or anything
Yeah,
like that. Like, it
right.
was just, oh, I'm having a baby. And in my head, I was like, you're going to be having a baby soon too. And then, I feel like when Olivia was born, I mean, I could see it all over your face,
Yeah.
that you wanted a child, and I
Yeah.
wanted you to have a child.
Right.
But
Well, and we always wanted to be pregnant together.
Right,
We
that
always
was our-
talked about that.
we made lots of future plans that we were supposed to do things together, and it never happened. But God's plans are better than ours.
That's right. That's right.
But I love that you guys, let me just pause for 1 second, because you still, even though you were in different seasons of life, you then had 2 children. You guys were still BFFs, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't all of a sudden be like, well, I'm a mom.
No,
and
she
you're not a
included
mom.
me in
I'm
everything.
busy.
No, she was.
Even when you were married and she wasn't, when she was single,
Right.
different stages of life, but still the friendship was developing. And
Oh, yeah.
I love that because in the body of Christ, I think we just naturally sometimes segregate ourselves into groups and like stages of life. And I struggled with that when I was single because a lot of my friends, when they would get married, I don't think they meant it in harm, but they were like, we're busy. And it felt like they got membership into the married club.
Yep.
And so then I was like, well, I still want to be a part of your life. I just feel like I don't have the ticket to be a part of your life. And so, you know, one thing I think that if you're listening to this and you're a friend of somebody who's struggling with infertility, just know that like, even though they might not share the same season of life that you're in, they want to be a part of your life.
Right.
And even though there is a little bit of pain in being a part of seeing you have something that they don't want, this is actually can be a healing, you know, chance for them to, like for me, I've had, my cousin has, beautiful young boys, and I've seen her get married before me, have children before me, but holding her little babies has been healing to me because I'm able to, she lets me treat them like like they're my kids, and I can hang and treat them and do all of these things. And it's been a beautiful healing thing. So I love that you guys had that.
Yes, it is a blessing. We do have that, and I'm very grateful for that.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So baby number 3.
Yeah,
Tell us that
Rachel.
one's the big one.
So
I mean, not the big baby. It's a big change.
She was actually my smallest of all that I had. When I found out I was pregnant with Rachel, I was nervous about telling you, Anne. I didn't know, not that I ever thought you would get upset at me or anything like that. And I knew you would only show me joy when I was looking at you.
Yes.
But I knew that when I left you, that you were probably going to cry.
Yeah.
You probably did. And I'm already getting emotional thinking about it because I would never want to do anything to hurt you. And I would never want to, do anything to make you upset. But at the same time, it would be wrong of me to hide.
Right. Well, and not celebrate.
Yes, and not let you be able to have the opportunity to celebrate with me. And I didn't do it I hope I didn't do it in a way that I was rubbing it in your face and being like,
I was the first one.
I'm pregnant.
I was the first one to know about that baby. So I don't even think she meant to tell me. If I'm remembering right, you didn't mean to tell me that day.
I think you are. And then I think Grace was next.
Well, back up
Sorry,
to when she
Grace.
told you, like, what was going through your mind? Did you feel like you had to put a mask on, or was it genuine joy? Like,
Well, if I remember right, we were in my kitchen, and I could tell something was like weird, and then I think it ended up just coming out that you were pregnant, and you hadn't told anybody yet. But yeah, I could see it all over her face and her demeanor that she was super uncomfortable and like just I don't know if I would not want you to feel guilty for sure. And so I don't know if guilt is the right word, but just felt like even though she's excited about this life inside of her, she was sad for me. And I think that joy and grief can coexist, you know?
It has to, because that's exactly how I felt.
Yeah, and I remember feeling that way, like she was saying, with her there for sure. And I also wanted to like almost comfort her and like, it's okay, like you have life.
You probably told me that. You were probably like, it's okay, I'm happy for you.
Yes,
because that's the kind of person that you are.
Well, through that pregnancy though, I feel like we got closer even through Rachel coming, and I don't know if we want to say that Rachel's named after me.
I mean, her name is Rachel Elizabeth, and Anne Elizabeth. We won't mention that my middle name is Elizabeth, but that's okay. It was definitely after Anne.
Yeah,
and that's what I told Jacob.
Jane Elizabeth. So
yes, Jane is after me.
Yes,
100%.
So, but anyway, I definitely feel like through that pregnancy, we actually got closer. during that time, and like you were talking about, Kendra, these babies being so healing, certain babies were that for me, and Rachel was definitely
when their
one
parents
of those.
were sensitive and loved you and saw you.
Yes,
makes a big difference.
Yes. Now, when people just like throw kids and be like, "Can you babysit? Can you babysit? Can you babysit?"
you don't
like,
have a life.
You say you want kids, so like here's mine. I'm like, it's not the same.
Oh gosh, I always try to be so careful not to do that.
She was always very careful.
I didn't want you to feel like that, because I was like, what? How would I feel? I would feel like that. I'd be like, I want my own children, not yours.
Right, because I'm giving these back to you.
Being open with your life of, this is who I am. I'm in this stage of life, and come live life with me. And I have kids, and I'm a busy mom, and this is my life.
Well, and then when I would have her kids, she would let me do whatever I wanted to with them. I did not have to like stay in touch, be like, I think me and Olivia went to the movies one time, and then she slept in the bed with me that night. I mean,
well, one of the feelings I think people with infertility struggle with is feeling left behind. Like there's so many stages. Like your friends have gotten married, they've gotten children, they've had all of these things, and it feels like, I just want a way to connect with you. And I love you mentioned that there's going to be moments of both grief and joy, and that you can experience those simultaneously. And that just, it reminds me of a passage in Scripture in 1 Corinthians 13 that's talking about the body of Christ, and how, each one of us are different parts in the body, and the eye can't say to the hand, I don't need you. Right. And, every part is needed. But verse 26 says that if one part suffers, every part suffers with it. And if one part rejoices, that every part rejoices with it. And I think it's important as believers, one, that we're able to share each other's burdens and bear each other's burdens, but also share in each other's joys. And so what I love, Anne, that you did was you didn't allow what you were going through to keep you from rejoicing with what Faith was going through. And just like, if your right hand gets hit by a hammer, your whole body says, ouch.
That's true.
When one person is struggling with infertility, anybody in their life feels that pain and feels that ouch. And so just being able to learn to bear each other's burdens. How, Faith, was there any ways that you felt like you specifically tried to be extra sensitive to Anne, or any?
Well, when we say extra sensitive,
or did you buy her gifts? That's cool too. Give her
yes, I just bought her lots of gifts. And
she actually really did.
I probably did. That's my love language, is gift giving.
And she's good at it.
So, I would just say that, I was cautious and careful in things that I said, especially regarding, like, I didn't try to hide. But, sometimes you have days with children where you're like, oh, my gosh, I'm going to go crazy. And I tried not to go and blow off steam on her when I had days like that.
In that area.
Yes, because I didn't want her to be like, I'm over here begging God for a child, and you have 3 of them.
Right.
And you're over here, mad about them. I love my children. But, if you're a mom, you know that you have days, and so I tried to be sensitive in that area. At the same time, I wasn't fake with Anne. She knew if stuff was going down. Right. I didn't give a bunch of details or, but she knew, and I wasn't, I think, I wasn't fake with her.
No.
And sharing in other people's pain, I think, helps give you perspective for your own sufferings.
Yeah. Yes.
Because like with that, I think that gave you the reality check of, what, God has blessed me with these children, even though I want to wring their little necks.
Yes.
And same with Anne. I think for people who struggle with infertility, it's very easy to just focus on the pain and to not see that other women that have children,
they're going through something.
They're going through
own
stuff too.
Right.
And don't let the fact that you want children eclipse you from being able to help them when they're struggling or suffering.
I feel like sometimes women struggling with infertility can honestly miss so many of the good things that we see on Facebook, the announcements and the keeping up with the months and, their first food. We see all the things that people want you to see on Facebook and Instagram. And I feel like I would struggle with like just wanting those things and not realizing but mom was also up 40 times in the middle of the night and she got pooped on and
motherhood.
To
the point
it's very glamorous, let me tell you.
Yes. But how many times did I come over and you'd be like, my shirt's covered in spit up? I think I came over one time and you're like, if I could just take a shower. And so I think you just took a shower.
That probably happened.
Well, that's so helpful for people struggling with infertility to keep in mind that, this isn't just the grass is greener on the other side.
Right.
It's a different stage of life, and that God gives grace to people in every stage of life.
I feel like you always need God in whatever stage you're in.
Of course.
Whether you're struggling with infertility, you need God. And whether you have 3 children, you definitely need God.
You need God.
Yes.
Well, Anne, I'm just going to ask you a couple questions because obviously Faith has given some wonderful what to do's.
Yes.
But let's talk about the what not to do's. Let's talk about the friends that you did not invite on this program. Let's just rapid fire, and Faith, feel free to jump in here too. What are things that people should not say to somebody who's struggling with infertility?
So
yeah, I can think of a bunch.
So what we've kind of already hit on, the babysitting thing and just assuming
that you don't have a life.
Yes. I mean, I remember people being like, literally, anytime you want my kids, you can come get my kids anytime, whatever. And I remember being like, it's such a weird statement, actually, because you're not going to give me your kids. And you make me feel weird saying this.
Yes.
And so, and then just, this is something I was going to say too. I was able to celebrate with Faith. I was able to celebrate with some other friends that I'm thinking of when they told me they were going to have a baby and genuinely feel happy. Still feel sad that I don't have a baby along with them, but genuinely feel rejoiceful. There's other people, when I would see those announcements come on Facebook, that I remember hurting so bad and just being like, why? I don't understand. And there, without giving too many details, there was definitely a time I was called out on social media about struggling with infertility, and I was not prepared for that.
That was before you'd even announced to anybody or shared. You weren't even. You were still trying to process it yourself.
I had shared just a little bit what I felt comfortable. I had not mentioned any miscarriage or anything like that because I'd had some people, like I've mentioned in past podcasts, come up to me and be like, I just really thought you would have babies by now. So I did end up sharing, saying, this is what we're struggling with.
But then other people feeling like they can just share your news, talk about it.
Tagging me and things things like that. And I remember that hurting so bad because I was like, you haven't called me one time to say, hey, I'm praying for you, but you're going to put it out on social media, And so, definitely don't do that to your friends struggling with infertility because a lot of times that stuff that they choose to share is just the stuff that they feel comfortable with sharing, past that.
I would say, too, don't always make the conversation about when they're going to have kids or about infertility. Because one of the things that you're trying to wrap your mind around is that my life is bigger than my ability to bear a child.
Yes.
And so,
And Faith was good at that, too, because she would literally sometimes she'd be like, do you want to talk about babies right now? Or do you want to talk about something something else?
I tried really hard to be, whenever we would get together or whenever I knew a big doctor appointment was coming up or when y'all had some major, medical stuff, I tried to start out our conversation being like, hey, I want you to know, I want to know every single detail you want to tell me. Like, I've been dying to know about it. I've been praying ever since, I knew you were going to the doctor. I mean, I've been thinking about you constantly. I want you to know that I want to know. But it's okay if you don't want to tell me anything. It's okay if you don't want to say anything, if you don't want to talk anything. We can talk about a lot of stuff because there's a lot of other stuff to talk about.
Right. She was good at that. She was good at that.
I think also being careful not to give faith statements that are dependent upon that person doing something. Like people who would say, if you're just patient enough, God's going to bless you. Or if you just learn to be content, God's gonna make it happen.
My favorite is, I've always heard if you fostered.
then it'll happen.
That's the magic right there. It's real magical, isn't it, Anne?
That's a whole nother episode.
People say these things as if only patient people get to have children, or only content people get to have
children. Only the people that pray all day.
Oh, my goodness.
Right. And even being careful about statements such as I'm just really, I know God has a baby for you.
Yeah.
Well, do you really know? Like, if God spoke to you, that's one thing. But maybe God's plan for that person is to build a family in a different way than a biological child. And maybe they're trying to wrestle with being comfortable with God's a different route or different plan. And so just careful on those statements. I would bless people.
Well, Faith, we're coming to an end, but would you mind praying for maybe friends of people who are struggling with infertility?
Yeah, I would love to. So, dear God, we just come to you and we thank you so much for this opportunity to get together and to talk. And I just ask that you would bless anyone that's listening to this podcast today, that you would help them to know how to be with their friends and how to respond to their friends, help them to be good friends with those that are struggling with infertility. I just thank you for Anne and Kendra, and I just thank you for how you're blessing them. And amen.
Amen. Thank you for listening to Hannah's Heart. It was fun.
Absolutely. Encourage your friends. Have a fantastic Valentine's Day with your love. And please reach out to us at Hannah's Heart.